If there was ever a time in WWE history to make a statement at one of the big four pay-per-views with the clothes that you're wearing, it's right goddamn now. The WWE landscape in 2019 alone is changing so quickly and moving so fast that you have to make that impact on a show. You have to make that connection with the fans, otherwise you get forgotten about. I mean, look at Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. You couldn't get them off WWE TV for 3 months, and then they couldn't buy themselves a ticket to the biggest show of the summer. Now yes, admittedly, while the majority of people probably won't miss Baron Corbin or Lacey Evans, this list in particular absolutely will, because the sassy Southern Belle had found herself becoming a regular on these lists through the attention to detail that her ring gear had. I mean, who could forget her punching Becky Lynch with the women's right on her boots? Nevertheless, where one cupboard door closes, another one opens. And while Toronto provided the catwalk, the superstars provided the fashion flexes, and SummerSlam was all the better for it. I'm Adam Nicholas, and these are 12 hidden meanings behind WWE SummerSlam 2019 attires. Number 12, Renee Young. Now before SummerSlam 2019, Renee Young had been tweeting out that she was looking for a Canadian designer to help put together her outfit for one of the biggest events of the summer. And while many of you might have thought, oh, it's going to be Toronto, it's going to be Canada, it's going to be red and white, and she's going to come up with something extremely fabulous and fantastic. Well, if you know Renee Young, she happens to be one of the coolest cats in WWE, so you'd always imagine something a little bit more subtle. And that's exactly what she delivered. Sporting a quality leather jacket at the commentary desk, Young's outfit was emblazoned with a shimmering 6 with a number 6 and the IX in tribute to Toronto rapper Drake, who popularised the term in 2014 based on the tail end of Toronto's area code 416. Number 11, ONeal Oak. NXT favourite ONeal Oak sported the now iconic colours of the black and yellow brand in his first shot at the Cruiserweight Championship this SummerSlam pre-show. Of course, he was facing Drew Gulak in a matchup where he was desperate to win the title for the very first time. Sporting yellow and black boots, knee pads and trunks, Logan was flying the flag for his past, while of course fighting for his future. And it's fair to say, in a weird weekend of wrestling, he ended up on the better show of the weekend. How many times can you find yourself saying that? Because TakeOver, in my personal opinion, slightly under-delivered, and SummerSlam was the better show. So while Oaken may have fancied himself to be part of the NXT show, he actually probably looked out on the SummerSlam one. Sadly, much like his NXT Tag Team title pursuits with Danny Burch, he would find himself coming up short against Drew Gulak. The champion retained, but nevertheless, Twitter's favourite caps lock abuser did himself proud. Number 10, Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross successfully defended their newly won Women's Tag Team Championships on the pre-show at SummerSlam, but it did find the champs having to tap in to their babyface resources, which, to be fair, is probably a little bit foreign for Alexa Bliss. Presumably with this in mind, the goddess decided to put her own spin on Toy Story's favourite Superman, Buzz Lightyear. Of course, we all know the iconic white with little green detailing, and she was sporting that quite fantastically. Nikki Cross, however, was also sporting green, but not quite the same green. It wasn't exactly matching, but technically was a green like a tag team. I don't know, maybe it's kind of meant to fit with the aesthetic that they're this odd couple tag team. Either way, it looked pretty damn good to me. Now admittedly, while Bliss did miss an obvious open goal for me where she could have had Andy on one of her shoes, but she absolutely didn't. Can't believe you missed that one, Lexi, my dear. But she did have a friend in Nikki Cross, and together they managed to retain their tag titles, and it was then announced that their next competitors who will face them for the belts will be the Kabuki Warriors. To infinity and beyond, I guess. Number 9, Xavier Woods. All right, now let's all just take a minute here, because we need to genuinely fully appreciate the absolute quality of Xavier Woods. And if we could all just pause for a second to appreciate how good his Stevie Wonder inspired look was for SummerSlam, because let me tell you, not only was it a good homage to Stevie Wonder, the legendary musician, but it was also inch perfect in the detail. Let me explain. Xavier Woods is far too much of a perfectionist to simply pay homage to Wonder, and for this year's Red Hot August Classic, the New Day's resident cosplayer mimicked the cover of Wonder's multi-platinum selling hit, Hotter Than July. He even went to the trouble of finding the right shade of red on the frames of his glasses and the beads of his cornrows. Number 8, Ricochet. Now it's safe to say Ricochet's SummerSlam offering was one that managed to completely divide the commentary team at SummerSlam. Harley Race would never be seen in chunks like that, said Michael Cole. We call Ricochet our resident superhero, exclaimed Renee Young. If you had abs like that, why would you ever cover them? Sneered Corey Graves. The one and only Ricochet debuted an ostentatious one-piece at the biggest show of the summer in a lovely fitting tribute to Nightwing, of course, from the DC Comics, with a black and blue ensemble, much to the delight of WWE and comic book crossover fans throughout the world. In the comics, Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing after he's dismissed from the role of being Batman's sidekick Robin. Becoming his own brand of superhero, Nightwing's narrative feels in keeping with Ricochet's own story against AJ Styles. Although I have to say, as cool as this look might be, Trevor, my friend, sadly, I'm with Corey Graves on this one. You're covering up the merchandise. Number 7, Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick let his desperation get the better of him at SummerSlam as he chased around the 24/7 champion R-Truth in hopes of retaining the belt and hopefully finally managing to consummate his marriage with his very, very, very angry wife. Attempting to blend in with the local fans so he could steal R-Truth's title, although I have to say R-Truth always seems to be one step ahead, Drake Maverick was wearing the jersey from this season's heroic Raptors team, and unfortunately, despite his best efforts, he just seemed to fall short. While his plan might have failed, the attire was spot on. Number 6, Montez Ford. And speaking of the Raptors, the Street Profits almost definitely took their purple, black and red colour scheme on their gear that they had at SummerSlam from the vintage colours of the Toronto Raptors' old gear, but more on that in a second. But it was the lipstick on Montez Ford's collar that stood out the most for me during the segment with Ric Flair, because obviously while they did have that lovely fitting tribute to the Raptors, this was a more fitting tribute that was personal to Montez Ford, because for those of you who don't know, the lips were symbolic of his wife and NXT superstar Bianca Belair, who has the kiss tattoos on her back up and down her spine, but also more fittingly has them on her attire as the trademark for her brand. This touching tribute to his real-life wife added a nice little bit of sincerity to an otherwise absolutely ridiculous spot. But a good ridiculous, because who doesn't like ridiculous wrestling? Number 5, Trish Stratus. With a Wonder Woman-inspired logo, Toronto's iconic CN Tower up the back of her attire in gold, and the aforementioned 6 motif on her boots, Trish Stratus was making the most of what could be her final night between the ropes. Putting on a gold standard encounter with Charlotte Flair, the iconic women's wrestler and WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus was obviously very happy to be in front of her home Toronto crowd, and that was reflected in the lovely little bits of legacy and iconography that she tied down in her ring attire. Number 4, Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston and, to be fair, Xavier Woods and Big E, for the limited time they were on our screens for SummerSlam, were sporting a stunning and shimmering purple attire for their SummerSlam, for the biggest show of the summer, and it was obviously another nod, as we've seen throughout the show, to the NBA Championship winners, the Toronto Raptors, and their vintage colours that they used to sport. As you can see, courtesy of these images from the New Day's brilliant and prolific designer Jonathan Davenport, this gear turned the cool up to 11. Vibrant purples, reds, blacks and greys were set off by Kofi's name in print next to a basketball with a unicorn horn, and the New Day's very own take on the vintage Toronto Raptors logo. Number 3, Kevin Owens. Bursting onto the scene at SummerSlam, eagle-eyed viewers, including the editor of this very video, Ben Roy Turner, will have noticed the Red Dead Redemption font as Kevin Owens' attire said "Fight Toronto Fight," a call to arms for all of the fans, his beloved Canadian fans, who were obviously in the audience as he went down to the ring to make way for his shootout with Shane McMahon. But that wasn't the only nod to his beloved Canada. KO's new t-shirt spoke directly to the crowd with a red and white colour scheme, as well as a takeoff on the Toronto Raptors logo. Starting to be a bit of a theme here, isn't there? With a keen eye for detail, Kevin Owens even went that one little step further by adding the lovely, luscious red crisscross laces through his boots. A nice detail, just enough to sort of appease the fans and pander to them without being a complete kiss-arse to the Great White North. Nevertheless, it's fair to say they were a hit with the fans, and they were a hit on this list. Number 2, Finn Balor. Looking positively angelic by contrast to his own inner demons and, of course, the terrifying fiend of Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor was a diamond in white, although it's fair to say he was about to completely plummet into some very dark depths against Bray Wyatt. Now, Finn Balor's got a bit of a habit of saving his best attires for the biggest occasions, but if rumours are to be believed, Finn Balor has asked for time off for a couple of months, so this could be his last big outing for quite some time. This was the perfect aesthetic to help Bray Wyatt get his gripping new persona across. Selling purity with his attire and pure horror with his facials, Finn Balor enhanced what was already an astonishing presentation of Wyatt's newest creation. And number 1, Seth Rollins. Renee Young's pointed remarks on Seth Rollins' SummerSlam attire kind of gave you a bit of an insight into the mindset of the architect as he prepared for what he saw as a must-win match in the main event of SummerSlam against Brock Lesnar. She noted that having spoken to him earlier that day, that he was all business this year. The black on black look stood in stark contrast to some of his elaborate SummerSlam threads from years gone by. Rollins has donned red, he's donned luminous yellow, he's even donned all white for the biggest party of the summer, but there were no fun and games to be had here because it was game time, and as he sported his dark camouflage, he was ready for his very own war to settle the score. So there you have it, that's it. That's all of the hidden meanings behind attires that we managed to find from this year's SummerSlam, but I'm sure you could probably find ones that we've missed, or maybe elaborate further on the ones we did find. So let us know about those in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and share. Hit the old subscribe button if you haven't already. You can find the article for this on whatculture.com by Michael Hamflett. You can follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. You can follow me on Twitter at It's Adam Nicholas, or if you just want some more videos, there should be some just over here. I'm Adam Nicholas, and I will see you next time.